Dr. Kang Min-ho pressed his face against the thick glass of the observation deck. Below him, stretching across the dark void of space, was humanity's greatest achievement. The Railgun platform floated silently in Earth's orbit, its massive barrel pointing toward the stars. After 20 years of work, today was the day they would finally test it. "All systems are ready, sir," said Commander Park Ji-woo from the control station. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic displays. Green lights blinked steadily across dozens of screens. Everything looked perfect. Min-ho nodded and walked to the communication panel. "This is Dr. Kong to all stations. We are beginning. The final countdown for humanity's first orbital railgun test. All personnel, prepare for firing sequence." The target was simple. An old asteroid mining station, broken and empty, floating 50,000 kilometers away. They had chosen it carefully. Far enough to be safe, but close enough to measure everything perfectly. The projectile was even simpler, just a tungsten rod about the size of a baseball bat, but incredibly dense. "Charging the magnetic coils now," announced Chief Engineer Lee Sahi from the engine room. Deep in the platform, massive superconductors began to hum. The sound traveled through the metal walls, making everything vibrate slightly. Min-ho had dreamed of this moment since he was a student. Back then, railguns were just theories in textbooks. Scientists said they might work someday, but the power requirements were too high. The magnetic fields needed were too strong. The materials would melt from the heat, but humanity had learned. Solar panels that covered half the platform collected energy from the sun. New superconductors could handle magnetic fields that would have destroyed older materials. Computer systems calculated everything perfectly, adjusting for temperature, gravity, and the rotation of the Earth. "Power at 60%, called out Park Ji-woo. 70%, 80%. The humming grew louder. Through the observation windows, Min-ho could see the barrel of the railgun beginning to glow faintly. The magnetic fields were so strong they were affecting the metal itself. 95%, 100%. "All systems green." "Fire when ready, Commander," said Min-ho. Park Ji-woo's hand hovered over the firing control. "Firing in 3, 2, 1, Dyer." The universe seemed to explode with light. The tungsten rod shot out of the railgun barrel at 15% the speed of light. For just a moment, it created a brilliant white streak across space, brighter than any star. The platform shook from the recoil, but the stabilizers held it steady. "Direct hit," shouted Engineer Kim Min-ji from the tracking station. "The rod hit the target perfectly. The old mining station is completely destroyed." Cheers echoed through the control room. Scientists hugged each other. Engineers slapped backs and smiled widely. After decades of work, their railgun actually worked, but Min-ho was already thinking about what came next. This was just the beginning. With railgun technology, humanity could defend Earth from asteroids. They could build better ships, reach other planets faster, maybe even reach other star systems someday. "Sir," called Dr. Kim Tae-yun from the communication center. "I'm getting some strange readings from our deep space monitors." "What kind of readings?" asked Min-ho, walking over to look at the displays. Tae-yun pointed at several screens showing radio wave patterns. "For the past 50 years, we've been detecting background radio signals from deep space. We always assumed they were natural. Pulsars, quasars, that sort of thing, but look at this." The screens showed flat lines, no signals at all. "When did this start?" asked Min-ho. "About 10 minutes ago," said Tae-yun. "Right after we fired the railgun. All the signals just stopped." Min-ho stared at the empty displays. This didn't make sense. Radio waves from space were constant. Pulsars spun every few seconds, sending out regular signals. Distant galaxies produced steady background noise. These signals had been detected every day for decades. "Maybe it's equipment failure," suggested Park Ji-woo. "The railgun might have damaged our receivers." "I don't think so," said Tae-yun. "I've checked everything twice. Our equipment is working perfectly. The signals from our own satellites are coming through clearly. It's just the deep space signals that have stopped." "All of them?" asked Min-ho. "Every single one." Signals from the direction of the galactic center, signals from other galaxies, signals from everywhere. It's like someone turned off a giant radio transmitter. Minho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had spent his whole career studying physics, and he knew that nature didn't just stop making radio waves. Pulsars didn't suddenly quit spinning. Distant galaxies didn't suddenly go quiet. Keep monitoring, he told Tyon. Record everything. If those signals come back, I want to know immediately. Yes, sir. The celebration continued around them, but Minho couldn't shake his worry. He walked back to the observation windows and looked out at the stars. They looked the same as always, tiny points of light scattered across the darkness. But something had changed. 3 hours later, the signals still hadn't returned. Taeyan had contacted radio telescopes around the world. All of them reported the same thing: the deep space signals were gone. Sir, said Park Ji-woo quietly, what do you think it means? Minho was quiet for a long moment. I think, he said slowly, that our Railgun test might have gotten someone's attention. Someone? Think about it. We just fired a projectile at 15% light speed. That's faster than anything humanity has ever built before. The energy signature would be visible across the entire solar system, maybe even to nearby star systems. You're suggesting there's someone out there watching us? I'm suggesting that maybe those signals weren't natural after all. Maybe they were ... artificial. Park Ji-woo looked pale. You mean like alien communications? I don't know. But think about the timing. We fire our first railgun and immediately all deep space signals stop. That's not a coincidence. They stood in silence, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the reach of human eyes and human ships, something had noticed humanity's first railgun test. And whatever it was, it had decided to go very, very quiet. What should we do? Asked Park Ji-woo. Minho was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, we keep working. We build more railguns. We get better at this technology. Because if there really is someone out there, we need to be ready. Ready for what? I don't know yet, but I have a feeling we're about to find out. The celebration had ended. The control room was quiet now, except for the steady hum of computers and the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. Outside the windows, Earth turned slowly beneath them, blue and white and beautiful. But beyond Earth, in the vast darkness between the stars, something was watching and waiting. The age of humanity's isolation was over. They just didn't know it yet. High Counselor Vexthara had lived for 3,000 years, but she had never felt fear like this. Her blue-scaled hands shook as she activated the emergency council session. Around the circular chamber, holographic images of representatives from 847 different worlds flickered to life. Council members, she began, her voice steady despite her terror. We have detected something that threatens the entire galaxy, the chamber erupted in confused chatter. Representatives from dozens of species spoke at once in their various languages. Vexthara raised her hand for silence. 3 standard hours ago, our long-range sensors detected an energy signature from the Sol system. The readings matched theoretical calculations for what our scientists call planet crackers. Ambassador Caldena from the synthesis worlds leaned forward. Her crystalline body caught the chamber's light, sending rainbows across the walls. Planet crackers are theoretical weapons. No species has ever actually built one. Until now, said Vexthara grimly. She activated the main display. Energy readings filled the air above them, showing the massive power spike that had come from Earth's direction. General Mortek of the warrior clan studied the data. His armored exoskeleton clicked as he moved. This level of kinetic energy, it could destroy a moon, maybe even crack a planet's crust. The humans call it a railgun, said Dr. Yolandra, the council's science advisor. Our intelligence shows they fired a simple projectile at 15% light speed. The energy release was equivalent to a small star-going supernova. Silence fell over the chamber. Even the most advanced species in the Confederation had never achieved such speeds with solid projectiles. Their weapons used energy beams, plasma bursts, or antimatter charges. But those could be defended against with shields and armor. A projectile moving at 15% light speed was different. Nothing could stop it. Shields would be useless. Armor would be meaningless. It would punch through anything like it. Wasn't even there? How is this possible? Asked Ambassador Rendell from the Peaceful Worlds. Our records show the humans only achieved faster-than-light communication 50 of their years ago. They should still be centuries away from this level of technology. Vexthara activated another display. This one showed humanity's technological development over the past century. They are not following normal development patterns. Most species take millions of years to progress from basic tools to advanced weapons. The humans have done it in less than 10,000 years. That's impossible, said Caldena. Our models show that rapid technological development always leads to self-destruction. Species either blow themselves up with nuclear weapons or destroy their planets with environmental damage. The humans survived both, said Dr. Yolandra. They developed nuclear weapons and almost used them in global war. But they stopped themselves. They polluted their planet and almost destroyed their environment, but they fixed it. They keep doing things that should be impossible. General Mortek's mandibles clicked nervously. What are their military capabilities now? Unknown, admitted Vexthara. If they can build one railgun, they can build more. If they can achieve 15% light speed, they might be able to go faster. Our war games show that even a small fleet of ships with these weapons could devastate our entire civilization. The chamber fell silent again. For 3 million years, the Confederation of Worlds had maintained peace through careful balance. No single species was strong enough to threaten all the others. Disputes were settled through negotiation and trade, but the humans had changed everything. With their railgun technology, they could potentially destroy any world in the galaxy. The balance of power was broken. What do we know about their intentions? Asked Ambassador Rendell. Very little, said Vexthara. They have never attempted to contact other species. They seem focused on their own solar system, but that could change quickly. We need to assume hostile intent, declared General Mortek. Any species that develops planet cracker weapons is a threat to galactic peace. Wait, said Dr. Yolandra. There's something else, something strange. She activated her own display. This one showed communication patterns across the galaxy. Look at this. When the humans fired their railgun, something else happened. All interstellar communications stopped. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Representatives checked their own communication systems, confirming what Yolandra had shown them. I don't understand, said Caldena. Why would human weapons affect our communications? They didn't, said Yolandra. We did. Every species in the galaxy detected the energy signature at the same moment, and every species had the same reaction, complete communication silence. Vexthara understood immediately. We all went dark. Every civilization in the galaxy saw those readings and decided to stop transmitting. It's instinctive, agreed Yolandra. When faced with a potential extinction threat, the first response is to hide, but Ambassador Rendell looked confused. If we all stopped communicating, how are the humans reacting? According to our monitoring stations, said Vexthara, they are trying to figure out why all the space signals suddenly stopped. They don't realize that those signals were artificial. They think they were natural phenomena? Asked Caldena. Yes, for centuries. Human scientists have been detecting our normal communications and assuming they were pulsars, quasars, and other natural sources. They have no idea the galaxy is full of intelligent life. General Mortek stood up, his armor clanking. This gives us an advantage. They don't know we exist. We can prepare defenses before they discover us. Or, said Dr. Yolandra slowly, we could try to communicate with them. The chamber exploded in shocked voices. Several representatives shouted in their native languages. General Mortek's armor systems activated, casting a red glow around him. Communicate with them, he roared. They have planet-cracking weapons. They could destroy us all. Exactly, said Yolandra calmly. They have the power to destroy us, but they haven't. They fired one test shot at an abandoned space station. If they wanted to attack other worlds, they could have done it already. Vexthura considered this. You think they might be peaceful? I think they might be curious. Their test was careful, precise, targeted at something that couldn't be hurt. That suggests scientific minds, not military ones. It's too dangerous, insisted General Mortek. We should establish a quarantine around their solar system. Keep them contained until we can develop defenses. A quarantine would require thousands of ships, pointed out Ambassador Rendell. Ships positioned close enough to their system that they would eventually detect us. Better that than letting them loose in the galaxy with those weapons, said Mortek. Vexthara called for quiet. The chamber slowly settled down. She looked around at the faces of representatives from nearly 1,000 worlds. All of them looked scared. We will vote, she announced. All in favor of establishing a quarantine around the Sol system. Hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages rose around the chamber. Vexthara counted quickly. All opposed? Fewer appendages rose, but not many. Abstaining? A handful of representatives remained neutral. The motion passes, said Vexthara. We will establish a quarantine around the human solar system. General Mortek, how long will you need to position your fleets? 12 standard days, he replied. But Counselor, if the humans detect our ships, then we will deal with that problem when it happens, said Vexthora. For now, our priority is protecting the galaxy. As the council session ended and the holograms flickered out, Vexthora remained in her chair. She stared at the empty chamber and wondered if they were making the right choice. The humans had built a weapon that could crack planets, but they had also stopped themselves from using nuclear weapons. They had saved their own world from environmental disaster. Were they monsters or heroes? In 12 days, she might find out. Dr. Kim Tae-yun had not slept in 3 days. His office at the Seoul Institute was covered with papers, computer printouts, and coffee cups. On every screen around him, flat lines showed where radio signals used to be. Still nothing? Asked his assistant, Dr. Le Young-ho, bringing another cup of coffee. Nothing, said Tae-yun, rubbing his tired eyes. 50 years of constant signals from deep space, and now complete silence. It's like someone turned off the universe. Young-ho sat down and looked at the displays. Maybe the signals really were natural and something interfered with them. No, said Tae-yun firmly. I've been studying these patterns for 20 years. They weren't random. Look at this. He pulled up an old recording from before the Railgun test. The radio waves showed complex, repeating patterns. Some were regular, like a heartbeat. Others were more complicated, with mathematical relationships between different frequencies. Natural phenomena don't make patterns like this, he explained. Pulsars are regular, but these signals have variations. They changed over time, like someone was adjusting them. You think they were artificial? I'm certain of it. And I think whoever was making them heard our railgun test and decided to go quiet. Young-ho was quiet for a moment. Are you saying we're not alone? Before Tae-yun could answer, his secure phone rang. The caller ID showed the presidential office. Dr. Kim, said President Na Soo-yeon's voice. I need you at the emergency cabinet meeting in 1 hour. Bring all your data about the missing signals. The cabinet meeting was held in the deepest basement of the presidential palace. Around the table sat the most important people in the government. President Na looked tired and worried. Gentlemen, she began. Dr. Kim's research suggests that the signals we lost after our railgun test were not natural phenomena. They were artificial communications from other civilizations. Defense Minister Colonel Yoon Ji-hae leaned forward. How many civilizations? Based on the signal patterns, said Tae-yun, at least several hundred, maybe thousands. The room fell silent. Foreign Minister Park Ji-won was the first to speak. If there are thousands of alien civilizations, why haven't they contacted us? Before? Maybe they have been trying, suggested Tae-yun. We assumed their signals were natural, so we never tried to decode them as messages. Or maybe they were watching us, said Colonel Yoon grimly. waiting to see if we were a threat. And now they think we are, added President Na. Our railgun test might have looked like a weapon demonstration. Dr. Kang Minho had been quiet during the discussion. Now he spoke up. I think I know how we can find out. Everyone turned to look at him. If they're watching us, he continued, and if they understand our technology, then they'll recognize mathematical patterns. We could use the railgun to send a message. Send a message how? Asked President Na. Fire it in a sequence. First send out prime numbers, 2 shots, then 3, then 5, then 7. Any advanced civilization would recognize that pattern as artificial. Colonel Yoon looked alarmed. You want to fire our weapon toward other star systems? No, said Minho quickly. Fire it into empty space. The energy signature will be visible across dozens of star systems. If anyone is watching, they'll see the pattern. And then what? Asked Foreign Minister Park. Then maybe they'll answer. President Na was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, it's risky. If we're wrong about their intentions, we could be starting a war. If we're right about their intentions, said Minho, we could be starting the most important conversation in human history. What if they are hostile? Asked Colonel Yoon. What if our message just tells them where we are? They already know where we are, said Taeyun. They've been receiving our radio and television signals for decades. They know exactly where Earth is located. President Na looked around the table. All those in favor of Dr. Kong's plan. Slowly, hands rose around the table. Even Colonel Yoon voted yes. Very well, said President Na. Dr. Kong, how long do you need to prepare? 2 days to calculate the firing sequences and make sure we have enough power. Do it. 2 days later, Minho stood again on the observation deck of the Railgun platform. This time, he was not alone. Scientists from around the world had come to watch. Television cameras from every major news network were recording. Beginning prime number sequence, announced Commander Park Ji-woo. First shot, 2 pulses. The railgun fired twice, sending 2 tungsten rods into empty space at 15% light speed. The brilliant flashes lit up the observation deck. Second shot, 3 pulses. 3 more flashes. Third shot, 5 pulses. Fourth shot, 7 pulses. The sequence continued, 11, 13, 17, 19. Each number was a prime, each pattern unmistakably artificial. Now beginning Fibonacci sequence, announced Park Ji-woo. 1 pulse, 2 pulses, 3 pulses, 5 pulses. The mathematical pattern continued, 8, 13, 21, 34. Any civilization advanced enough to build radio telescopes would recognize these numbers. Sequence complete, announced Park Ji-woo. All shots fired successfully. Now came the waiting. If there really were alien civilizations watching, how long would it take them to respond? Hours? Days? Years? Sir, called Dr. Kim Tae-yun from the communication station. I'm getting something. Everyone rushed to his station. On his screen, a new signal was appearing. Not radio waves this time, but something much more advanced. A quantum entanglement transmission that bypassed normal space entirely. What is it? Asked Minho. Taeyun's fingers flew across his keyboard, trying to decode the signal. It's single quotes S dot dot mathematics, but not our mathematics. Look at this. The signal showed a proof of a famous mathematical theorem, but the proof was different from any human version. It was shorter, more elegant, and it solved the problem in a way that no human mathematician had ever thought of. They're showing us that they understand our mathematics, said Taeyun excitedly. But they're also showing us that they're more advanced than we are? Is there more? Asked Minho. Yes, star charts. Our local area of the galaxy, but with much more detail than we have. Safe approach routes to our solar system, and dot dot dot. What? Taeyun's face had gone pale. Energy signatures. Dozens of them. All around the edge of our solar system. Minho looked at the display. The alien star charts showed their solar system surrounded by what looked like military formations, ships, maybe, or weapons platforms. They're not just watching us, he said. Quietly. They're surrounding us? Are we under attack? Asked Commander Park. I don't think so, said Taiyun, studying the data more carefully. The ships aren't moving toward us, they're just sitting there, like they're waiting. Waiting for what? Minho thought about it. The aliens had responded to humanity's mathematical message with their own mathematics. They had shared star charts and showed the positions of their fleets. They weren't attacking, but they weren't leaving either. I think, he said slowly, they're waiting to see what we do next. What do you mean? We fired weapons into space and they surrounded us with ships. But when we sent mathematical messages, they responded with mathematics. Maybe they're matching our actions. You think they want to communicate? I think they want to see if we're civilized enough to deserve communication. Commander Park looked worried. And if we're not? Minho looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere beyond human sight, alien ships were watching Earth, waiting to see if humanity would choose war or peace. Then I guess we find out what those ships are really. FOR? 3 weeks had passed since humanity sent their mathematical message into space. Dr. Kim, Taeyun had barely left his laboratory, waiting for a response that might never come. He was starting to think the aliens had lost interest when his quantum detection equipment suddenly came alive. Dr. Kim? Called his assistant, Dr. Lee Sahi, from across the lab. Something's happening. Taeyun rushed to the main console. The quantum entanglement detector was showing massive activity. Data was flowing in faster than their computers could process it. It's the same transmission method they used before, said Sahi, her fingers flying across the keyboard. But this time there's much more data. How much more? Terabytes. Maybe petabytes. This is going to take hours to decode. But Taiyun was already seeing patterns in the raw data. It's not random, he said excitedly. Look at the structure. It's organized like a textbook. A textbook? Mathematics first, then physics, then chemistry. They're teaching us their science. As the hours passed, the true scope of the alien message became clear. It was indeed like a textbook, but far more advanced than anything humanity had ever created. The mathematics section included proofs of theorems that human scientists had been working on for decades. The physics section showed elegant solutions to problems that had puzzled Einstein and Newton. Look at this, said Sahi, pointing to a section about faster-than-light travel. They're showing us how to build starships. Taeyun studied the diagrams. The technology was incredibly advanced, but the principles were explained clearly. It's like they want us to understand, or they want us to know what we're up against. As they worked through the night, translating alien mathematics into human understanding, more sections of the message revealed themselves. Star charts showing thousands of inhabited worlds, histories of ancient civilizations, pictures of dozens of different alien species, but the most important section came last. Warning protocols, read Sahi from her translation. Danger classifications. Extinction procedures. What do you mean? Sahi's face was pale as she read from the screen. They have categories for different types of civilizations. Peaceful species get trading partnerships. Aggressive species get monitored. Extremely dangerous species get what? Contained or eliminated. Taeyun felt cold. Where do they classify humanity? Sahi was quiet for a long moment. Category 7. Extreme danger to galactic civilization. Why? According to this, most species develop weapons and defenses at the same rate. Over millions of years, they learn to build shields at the same time they learn to build guns. But we're different. How? We developed railgun weapons that can destroy planets, but we don't have any defenses against them. From their perspective, we're like children playing with nuclear bombs. Taeyun sat down heavily. So they're going to eliminate us? Not necessarily. Look at this section. Sahi had found another part of the message. This one showed examples of other dangerous species that had been successfully integrated into galactic civilization. They give dangerous species tests, she explained. Challenges to prove they can be trusted. What kind of challenges? Before Sahi could answer, another message arrived through the quantum link. This one was different, shorter, more direct, and addressed specifically to humanity's leaders. The message appeared in perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, and dozens of other human languages simultaneously. Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Confederation of Worlds. We have been observing your species for many years. Your rapid development of advanced weapons technology has classified you as a potential threat to galactic peace. Taeyun and Sahi read in stunned silence. However, we have also observed your capacity for cooperation and self-restraint. You have survived nuclear weapons without destroying yourselves. You have begun to repair your damaged environment. These actions suggest you may be capable of joining galactic civilization. The message continued with detailed information about the Confederation, 847 member worlds, millions of years of peaceful cooperation, trade networks spanning the galaxy. To prove your species is ready for contact, we offer you a challenge. At the edge of your galaxy, an ancient threat called the Devourers has been consuming star systems for millennia. 17 different species have attempted to stop them. All have failed. If humanity can find a solution to the Devourer threat, you will be welcomed into the Confederation as full members. If you refuse this challenge, or if you fail, your species will be contained to your home system until you develop adequate peaceful intentions. The message ended with coordinates for the edge of the galaxy and detailed technical specifications for the Devourer machines. This is incredible, whispered Sahi. They're giving us a chance to prove ourselves. Taeyun was studying the technical data about the Devourers. These machines are terrifying. They consume entire planets, turning all matter into energy to build more of themselves. How are we supposed to stop something that 17 advanced civilizations couldn't handle? I don't know. But we have to try. Within hours, the alien message had been transmitted to every major government on Earth. Emergency sessions were called in Washington, Beijing, Moscow, and London. But the most important meeting was held in Seoul, where President Na Su-yan gathered her top scientists and military advisors. The situation is clear, she began. We have been given a test. Pass and we join a galactic civilization with access to technologies beyond our imagination. Fail and we remain prisoners in our own solar system. What exactly are these Devourer machines? Asked Defense Minister Colonel Yuna Gha. Dr. Kong Minho had been studying the technical data. They're ancient automated warships, probably millions of years old. They convert matter directly into energy, using it to build copies of themselves. Each machine can reproduce exponentially. How big are they? Some are the size of small moons. The largest ones are bigger than Earth. Colonel Yoon looked grim. How are we supposed to fight something like that with railguns? Maybe we're not supposed to fight them, suggested Dr. Park Solji, the chief engineer. Maybe we're supposed to think differently. What do you mean? Every other species that tried to stop the Devourers used energy weapons, lasers, plasma, cannons, antimatter bombs. But energy just makes the machines stronger. They absorb it and use it to build more of themselves. So what's the alternative? Park Solji smiled. Kinetic weapons. Our railguns don't use energy that the machines can absorb. They use simple mass and velocity. You think we can destroy them with railguns? Not destroy them. But maybe we can. Do something else. Minho was starting to understand. You want to move them. Exactly. If we can't destroy the Devourers, maybe we can change their direction. Use railgun strikes to alter their course, send them away from inhabited systems. President Na looked around the table. Is this possible? Theoretically, said Minho. But it would require incredible precision. We'd need to hit moving targets across interstellar distances while accounting for relativistic effects. And we'd need help, added Park Solji. Ships to carry the railguns close enough to the target area. The aliens offered to provide transportation, said Colonel Yoon, reading from the message. If we agree to the challenge, they'll take our equipment and personnel to the edge of the galaxy. President Na was quiet for a long moment. This could be humanity's greatest moment or our last mistake. It's not really a choice, said Minho. If we refuse, we stay trapped in our solar system forever. If we accept and fail, we might die trying. But if we accept and succeed, we become part of something bigger than we ever imagined, finished President Na. She looked around the table one more time. All in favor of accepting the challenge? Every hand rose. Then it's decided, Dr. Kong. How long do you need to prepare? 2 weeks to build portable railgun systems. Another week to train the crews. Do it, and may God help us all. Admiral Cho Dong-hae stood on the bridge of the newly constructed diplomatic vessel New Seoul. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see the edge of human space. Beyond that invisible line, alien fleets waited in the darkness. All systems ready, Admiral, reported Captain Lin Suyang from the navigation station. The railgun platforms are secured and the diplomatic team is prepared. Dong-hae nodded. 3 weeks of frantic construction had produced humanity's first interstellar diplomatic mission. The ship carried 5 portable railgun systems, a full scientific team, and translators led by Dr. Kim Tae-yun. Take us out, Captain. Let's go meet our neighbors. The New Seoul moved slowly toward the quarantine line. As they approached, alien ships began to appear on their sensors. Dozens of them, then hundreds, all maintaining perfect formation around Earth's solar system. My God, whispered Commander Park Ji-woo from the tactical station. Look at the size of some of these ships. The alien vessels ranged from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts, larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their designs were strange and beautiful, organic curves mixed with crystalline structures, metal hulls that seemed to flow like liquid. Sir, called Lieutenant Kim Minji from communications, we're receiving a transmission. Put it on screen. The main display flickered, then showed the image of an alien being. It had blue scales, 4 arms, and large golden eyes. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect Korean. Human vessel, I am Ambassador Yolfin of the Confederation of Worlds. We have been expecting you. Admiral Dong-hae stepped forward. I am Admiral Cho Dong-hae, representing the government of Earth. We accept your challenge regarding the Devourer. Threat. Before we proceed, said Yolfin, we must discuss the current situation. Your species has been classified as extremely dangerous to galactic civilization. Why? Yolfin activated his own display, showing comparative data about different civilizations. Most species require millions of years to develop from basic tools to advanced weapons. They learn defensive technologies alongside offensive ones. This creates natural balance, but humans are different. Your species achieved advanced kinetic weapons in less than 10,000 years. You have no corresponding defensive systems. From our perspective, you are like children who learn to make explosives before they learn to make safety equipment. Dr. Kim Tae-yun joined the conversation from his station. We understand your concern, but surely our response to your mathematical messages shows that we're capable of peaceful communication. Perhaps, said Yolfin. That is why we offer this challenge rather than immediate containment. Containment? If you had ignored our messages and continued developing weapons, we would have been forced to limit your expansion. Admiral Dong-hae felt a chill. You mean destroy us, if necessary? We have done so before with species that threatened galactic peace. The bridge fell silent. Finally, Dr. Tae-yun asked, how many species have you destroyed? In 3 million years, 47 civilizations have been eliminated as threats to galactic peace. It is always our last option, but sometimes it is necessary. And how many have passed your tests? 136 species have been successfully integrated into the Confederation after proving their peaceful intentions. Captain Lim leaned forward. What exactly do we need to do to pass this test? Yolfin's display changed, showing the edge of the galaxy where the Devourer machines operated. For 2 million years, these automated weapons have consumed star systems at the galactic rim. They convert all matter into energy, using it to build more of themselves. We've studied your technical data, said Commander Park. But I don't understand how stopping them proves we're peaceful. Because, explained Yolfin, Every species that has attempted this challenge used it as an opportunity to demonstrate their military power. They brought their largest fleets, their most destructive weapons. They tried to obliterate the Devourers through superior firepower. And it didn't work? The Devourers absorb energy and use it to grow stronger. Every energy weapon fired at them only makes them more dangerous. 17 different species learned this lesson at the cost of their entire fleets. Dr. Lee Sahi, who had been quietly analyzing the alien data, suddenly looked up. "You're testing our wisdom, not our strength." "Explain," said Yalthin, his golden eyes focusing on her. "You don't want to see if we can destroy the Devourers. You want to see if we can find a solution that doesn't involve destruction. Very perceptive human. Yes, this test measures wisdom and creativity, not military might." Admiral Donghae was beginning to understand. "That's why you chose us specifically. Our railgun technology doesn't use energy weapons?" "Correct. Kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds cannot be absorbed by the Devourer machines. But the question remains, what will you do with this advantage?" "We have a plan," said Dr. Kong Minho, joining the conversation from the engineering section. "We don't want to destroy the Devourers, we want to redirect them." Yalthin's scales shifted color slightly, apparently an expression of surprise. "Redirect them how?" "By using precisely calculated railgun strikes to alter their trajectory," explained Minho. "Send them away from inhabited systems out into intergalactic space where they can't harm anyone." "This is unprecedented," said Yalthin after a long pause. "No species has ever suggested redirection instead of destruction. Will you allow us to try?" Yalthin was quiet for several minutes, apparently consulting with others not visible. On the screen, finally, he spoke again. "The Confederation Council has agreed to your proposal. However, there are conditions." "Name them." "First, you will be accompanied by observers from multiple species. If your plan fails and the Devourers become more dangerous as a result, the observers will ensure that Earth faces consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "Complete quarantine. Your species would never be allowed to leave your solar system." Admiral Donghae exchanged glances with his senior officers. "And the second condition?" "If you succeed, humanity will be granted provisional membership in the Confederation. You would have access to basic galactic technologies and trade networks. However, full membership would require additional demonstrations of peaceful development over several centuries. And if we refuse the challenge entirely, immediate quarantine. Your solar system would be surrounded by automated defense platforms. That would prevent any human expansion beyond your current borders." The bridge was silent as everyone considered their options. Finally, Admiral Donghae spoke. "We accept your conditions." "When do we leave?" "Immediately. Our transport vessels will arrive within hours to carry your equipment and personnel to the Galactic Rim." "How long will the journey take?" 3 standard days using our faster-than-light drives." As the communication ended, Admiral Donghae looked around at his crew. They were about to travel further from Earth than any human had ever gone to face an enemy that had destroyed 17 civilizations. "Any regrets?" he asked. Captain Lem smiled grimly. "Just one, sir. I wish we'd brought more railguns." "Don't worry," said Commander Park. "If our plan works, we won't need them. And if it doesn't work?" Dr. Taeyun looked up from his translation station. "Then we'll learn what happens to the 48th species to threaten galactic peace." Within hours, alien transport ships appeared around the New Sol. They were beautiful vessels, their hulls covered in patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living things. As the human ship was drawn into the transport bay of the largest alien vessel, Admiral Donghae felt the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. In 3 days, they would reach the edge of the galaxy. In 3 days, they would face the Devourers. In 3 days, humanity would learn whether they were wise enough to join galactic civilization. Or whether they would become the 48th species to be eliminated as a threat to galactic peace. The journey to the Galactic Rim took 3 days aboard the alien transport vessel. Admiral Cho Donghae spent most of that time in meetings with the Confederation observers, learning about the 17 species that had failed before them. The Kethmori brought plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, explained Commander Zultar, a crystalline being who sparkled when he moved. The Devourers absorbed the energy and built 3 new machines. The Velthani used antimatter bombs, added Dr. Pixandra, whose tentacles constantly shifted colors as she spoke. The explosions only fed the machines more energy. An entire fleet of 200 ships was consumed in less than an hour. Captain Lim Suyang studied the battle records on her tablet. What about the Mortekians? Their report mentions gravitational weapons. They tried to collapse stars near the Devourer swarms, said Zultar sadly. The released energy created 5 times as many machines. The Mortekian homeworld was consumed within a year. Dr. Kim Tae-yun looked up from his translation work. Why do you keep trying? If the Devourers can't be destroyed with energy weapons, why not just avoid them? Because they are spreading, explained Dr. Pixandra. Every system they consume gives them resources to build more machines. Eventually, they will reach inhabited worlds. How long do we have? At current expansion rates, they will reach Confederation space in approximately 50,000 years. Admiral Donghae frowned. That seems like a long time. Why the urgency? Commander. Zultar's crystal body dimmed. Because their expansion is accelerating. Each new system consumed allows them to build more machines faster. The mathematical projections are terrifying. Show me. Zultar activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's edge. Red dots marked systems already consumed by the Devourers. Green dots showed their projected expansion over time. At current rates, they will consume the entire galaxy in less than 1 million years, said Zultar. Every world, every civilization, every living thing will be converted into raw materials for more machines. The humans stared at the display in horrified silence. Dr. Lee Sahi was the first to speak. How many people live in the galaxy? Approximately 900 billion sentient beings across all species, replied Dr. Pixandra. And we're humanities. Only chance to save them? You are the only species with weapons that cannot be absorbed by the Devourers, confirmed Zultar. If your plan fails, we have no other options. The weight of responsibility was overwhelming. Admiral Donghae looked around at his small crew. 43 humans against an enemy that had destroyed 17 civilizations. Tell me about the machines themselves, he said. How do they think? How do they make decisions? They don't think, explained Dr. Pixandra. They are purely automated. They follow simple programming, find matter, convert it to energy, build more machines, repeat. No intelligence at all. None. They were created as weapons during an ancient war, but their builders died out millions of years ago. Now they simply follow their original programming. Dr. Kang Minho had been quiet during most of the journey, working on calculations for their railgun strikes. Now he looked up with a concerned expression. I've been running simulations of our redirection plan, he said. There's a problem. What kind of problem? Asked Admiral Donghae. The Devourers are too massive. Even at 15% light speed, our railgun projectiles won't have enough kinetic energy to significantly change their course. Captain Lim felt her heart sink. So the plan won't work? Not with our current approach, but I have an idea. Minho activated his own display, showing detailed schematics of the Devourer machines. Instead of trying to push the entire machine, what if we target specific components? Explain. Look at their propulsion systems. They use massive gravity drives to move between star systems. If we can damage those drives, the machines would be stranded, finished Dr. Taeyun excitedly. Unable to reach new systems to consume. Exactly. And without new matter to convert. They couldn't build additional machines. Commander Zultar studied the proposed targeting data. This is very precise work. You would need to hit components only a few kilometers wide on machines the size of moons. At interstellar distances, added Dr. Pixandra, while both the target and your railgun platforms are moving at high speed. Can it be done? Asked Admiral. DONGHA. Dr. Kong Minho was quiet for a long moment. Theoretically, yes, but we'd need perfect coordination between multiple Railgun platforms. And we'd only get one chance. If we miss, the machines will adapt their positioning to prevent future attacks. How many platforms would we need? At least 5, maybe more. We brought 5, said Captain Lim. Then we'd better not miss. On the third day, they arrived at the Galactic Rim. Admiral Donghae stood on the observation deck of the alien transport ship and stared in horror at what the Devourers had done. Where star systems should have been, there was only emptiness. Entire solar systems had been stripped clean, not just planets, but asteroids, comets, even the stars themselves had been partially consumed. The machines had left behind twisted metal structures floating in space like mechanical graveyards. How many systems have they destroyed? He asked quietly. In this sector alone, 47, replied Zoltar. Each one contained billions of years of planetary evolution. Any survivors? None. The Devourers are thorough. As they watched, new contacts appeared on the ship's sensors. The Devourer machines themselves, massive, geometric structures that seemed to bend light around them. The smallest ones were the size of asteroids. The largest dwarfed Earth's moon. There, said Dr. Pixandra, pointing to a cluster of 5 machines working to dismantle what had once been a gas giant. Those are optimal targets. They're moving slowly and their gravity drives are exposed. Admiral Donghae activated his communication. System, all human personnel, report to battle stations. This is what we came here to do. Within hours, the 5 Railgun platforms had been deployed in a careful formation around the target area. Each platform was manned by a crew of 8 humans working with alien observers who would record everything for the Confederation Council. All platforms report ready, announced Captain Lim from the command platform. Remember, said Dr. Minho, over the communication system, we have to hit all 5 targets simultaneously. If even one machine survives with functional drives, it could warn the others. Understood. Beginning targeting sequence. The next hour was the most tense of Admiral Donghae's life. The human crews worked with impossible precision, calculating trajectories across millions of kilometers while accounting for the motion of both platforms and targets. Platform 1 locked on target. Platform 2 locked on target. Platform 3 adjusting for gravitational distortion ... locked on target. Platform 4 locked on target. Platform 5 ... target acquired. Admiral Donghae took a deep breath. The fate of 900 billion people depended on the next few seconds. All platforms, prepare to fire on my mark. 3.2... Dire. 5 tungsten rods launched simultaneously at 15% the speed of light. For a moment, space lit up with brilliant streaks of light converging on the Devourer. Machines. Then the impacts came. All 5 gravity drives exploded in spectacular cascades of energy and debris. The massive machines suddenly unable to control their motion began tumbling helplessly through space. Direct hits on all targets, shouted Captain Lim. The machines are disabled, but Admiral Donghae was watching the sensors carefully. Wait, look at the other machines. Throughout the system, dozens of other Devourer machines had stopped their work and were turning toward the disabled group. But instead of attacking the human platforms, they began moving toward their damaged companions. What are they doing? Asked Dr. Tae-hyun. Commander Zultar's crystal body flashed with excitement. They're trying to repair the damaged units. But they can't, said Dr. Minho, checking his calculations. The gravity drives are completely destroyed. Even with all their resources, it would take years to rebuild them. Dr. Pixandra was analyzing the machine behavior patterns. This is unprecedented. They're diverting resources from expansion to attempted repairs. They've never done this before. Which means? It means your plan is working. The machines are no longer focused on consuming new systems. They're trying to fix what you broke. Admiral Donghae felt a surge of hope. How long will the repairs take? According to our calculations, said Zoltar, approximately 50 years per machine. During that time, they cannot expand into new systems. And if we can disable more machines, then we can effectively stop their expansion entirely. Admiral Donghae looked around at his crew. They had done it. Humanity had found a way to stop the Devourers without destroying them, without feeding them more energy, simply by being smarter than the 17 civilizations that had tried before. Commander Zultar, he said formally, please inform the Confederation Council that humanity has successfully completed the challenge. It will be my honor, replied the crystalline being. And Admiral ... welcome to galactic civilization. The success against the first group of Devourer machines had been just the beginning. Over the next 6 months, Admiral Cho Dong-hae led a combined human-alien fleet deeper into the consumed regions of the galaxy, targeting the massive machine swarms that had been devouring star systems for millennia. Next target cluster confirmed, announced Captain Lim Soo-yang from the bridge of the New Sol. 17 machines, including 3 of the largest class we've encountered. Dr. Kang Minho studied the tactical display with growing concern. These aren't like the others? Look at their positioning. The Devourer machines had arranged themselves in a defensive formation around a partially consumed star system. Instead of the random distribution they had seen before, these machines were clearly coordinating their positions. They're learning, said Commander Park Ji-woo grimly. Each attack we make teaches them how to defend against the next one. Dr. Kim Tae-yun looked up from his analysis station. It's worse than that. According to the pattern analysis, they're sharing information across the entire network. Every machine in the galaxy now knows about our railgun attacks. Admiral Donghae felt a chill. What does that mean for our mission? It means this might be our last chance, said Dr. Lee Sahi. If we can't stop this group, they'll develop countermeasures that make all future attacks impossible. The alien observers were equally worried. Commander Zultar's crystalline body had dimmed to almost black. The Devourers have never shown this level of adaptive behavior before. Your previous success may have triggered some kind of emergency learning. Protocol, how long do we have before they adapt completely? Asked Admiral Odo, and Dr. Pixandra's tentacles shifted to deep red, apparently a sign of extreme stress. Unknown. But our analysis suggests they are already repositioning machines throughout the galaxy to protect critical systems. The situation was more desperate than anyone had imagined. The Devourers weren't just mindless machines following simple programming. They were a network intelligence capable of learning and adapting to new threats. We need a new approach, said Dr. Minho. Something they can't adapt to because they've never seen it before. What do you have in mind? Minho activated the main display, showing detailed scans of the target system. Instead of trying to disable individual machines, what if we target the system itself? Explain. The Devourers are using this star as an energy source. If we could destabilize the star's fusion reaction. You want to make it go supernova? Asked Captain Lim in shock. Not exactly. But we could create a massive solar flare, enough energy released to damage every machine in the system simultaneously. Commander Zultar's body flashed with alarm. That would require incredible precision. Too little energy and the machines will just absorb it. Too much and you create a supernova that destroys everything within light years. Can it be done? Asked Admiral Donghae. Dr. Minho was quiet for a long moment. Theoretically, we'd need to target the star's core with multiple railgun strikes at exactly the right angles. The tungsten projectiles would disrupt the fusion balance just enough to trigger a controlled energy release. What are the odds of success? Honestly, less than 10%. If we miss the target zone by even a few kilometers, we either accomplish nothing or destroy the entire system. Dr. Tae-yun looked worried. And if we destroy the system? Then we become no better than the Devourers ourselves, said Admiral Donghae grimly. We'd be the ones destroying star systems. The bridge fell, silent as everyone considered their options. They could attempt conventional attacks on the individual machines, but the Devourers had learned to defend against those. They could try the solar disruption plan, but failure would make them destroyers instead of saviors. There's a third option, said Engineer Kim Minji quietly from her station. Everyone turned to look at her. She had been working on technical modifications to their railgun systems throughout the mission. We could try to communicate with them, she said. Communicate with the Devourers? Asked Captain Lim. They're just machines. Are they? Think about what we've observed. They coordinate their actions across the galaxy. They adapt to new threats. They share information instantaneously. That sounds like intelligence to me. Dr. Pixandra's tentacles shifted to yellow, apparently indicating interest. This is a fascinating theory. But how would you communicate? With machines that have been following the same programming for millions of years? In the same way we communicated with you, said Minji. Mathematics. She activated her own display, showing patterns in the Devourer movements. Look at their positioning. It's not random. They're following mathematical relationships, geometric patterns, orbital mechanics, even number sequences. You think they're trying to communicate? I think they've been trying to communicate for millions of years, but no one has been listening. Admiral Donghae studied the patterns. They were subtle, but unmistakable. The machines weren't just consuming matter randomly, they were creating mathematical art on a galactic scale. Even if you're right, said Commander Park, how do we talk to them? They've been consuming entire civilizations. Maybe that's the only language they know, suggested Minji. They were created as weapons. All they understand is destruction and consumption. But what if we could teach them a different language? How? By showing them creation instead of destruction. Minji explained her plan. Instead of firing tungsten rods at the Devourer machines, they would fire specially designed projectiles that would break apart upon impact, creating complex geometric patterns in space, mathematical messages written in metal and light. You want to use our weapons to create art? Asked Dr. Minho. I want to use our weapons to show them that matter can be organized in ways other than consumption, that intelligence can create as well as destroy. It was the most audacious plan anyone had ever heard, using humanity's most advanced weapons. Not to destroy an ancient enemy, but to teach them a new way of thinking. It's insane, said Captain Lim. It's brilliant, said Dr. Taiyun. It's our only chance, said Admiral Donghae. If conventional attacks won't work and stellar disruption is too dangerous, then maybe communication is the answer. Commander Ziltaris' body was cycling through different colors rapidly. The Confederation Council will need to approve this. Plan, using weapons to communicate with the Devourers, is unprecedented. How long for approval? Several hours at minimum. We don't have several hours, said Dr. Sahi, checking her sensors. The Devourers are moving. They're repositioning to leave this system. If they escape, added Dr. Pixandra, they'll spread the information about our weapons to every machine in the galaxy. We'll never get another chance like this. Admiral. Donghae looked around at his crew. They were asking him to make a decision that could affect the fate of the entire galaxy. Attack with conventional weapons and likely fail. Attempt stellar disruption and risk becoming destroyers themselves. Or try something completely new, using weapons to communicate. Load the communication projectiles, he ordered. Sir? Asked Captain Lim. You heard me. We're going to try Engineer Kim's plan. Without Confederation approval? This is humanity's test, said Admiral Donghae firmly. We'll succeed or fail on our own terms. The next hour was frantic as the crew prepared the communication projectiles. Each one was programmed to break apart in specific patterns, creating mathematical sequences that any intelligence should recognize as artificial. First sequence loaded, announced Commander Park. Prime numbers. Second sequence ready, called Dr. Minho, Fibonacci series. Third sequence prepared, said Dr. Sahi, pi to 50 decimal places. All Railgun platforms report ready, said Captain Lim. Admiral Donghae took a deep breath. In a few moments, they would either make first contact with the galaxy's most dangerous enemy, or they would trigger an attack that would destroy their fleet. All platforms fire when ready. The Railgun projectiles launched toward the Devourer. Machines at 15% light speed. But instead of solid tungsten rods, these projectiles broke apart upon impact, creating brilliant geometric patterns that spelled out mathematical messages in the language of creation itself. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the Devourer machines began to move. Instead of their usual consumption patterns, they started arranging themselves into geometric formations that mirrored the human messages. "They're responding," whispered Dr. Taeyun. "They're learning," said Engineer Kim Minji with tears in her eyes. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourers had stopped consuming and started creating. 6 months later, Admiral Cho Dong-hae stood in the Great Assembly Hall of the Confederation of Worlds. Around him, representatives from 847 different species gathered to witness humanity's formal induction into galactic civilization. The transformation had been remarkable. Once the Devourer machines learned to communicate, they had revealed truths that shocked the entire galaxy. They were not mindless destroyers, but the last survivors of an ancient civilization that had been consumed by their own weapons. For millions of years, they had been trying to preserve their creator's knowledge by converting matter into data storage, not realizing that they were destroying the very thing they sought to protect. "The motion before the Assembly," announced High Counselor Vextara, "is to grant full membership to the species known as humans, inhabitants of the world called Earth in the Sol System." Dr. Kim Tae-yun, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, rose to address the Assembly. His translation device allowed every species to understand his words in their native language. "Honored representatives," he began, 6 months ago, humanity was classified as a threat to galactic civilization. Our rapid development of kinetic weapons and lack of corresponding defenses made us appear dangerous and unpredictable. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the Assembly. Many species had supported the original containment protocols. But what we discovered together at the Galactic Rim changed everything. The Devourer crisis was not solved through superior firepower or advanced technology. It was solved through communication, understanding, and the willingness to see intelligence, where others saw only destruction. Ambassador Caldena from the Synthesis Worlds sparkled as she spoke. The humans demonstrated wisdom beyond their years. Instead of seeking to destroy the Devourers, they sought to understand them. And in doing so, added General Mortek of the warrior clans, they saved not only the Devourers themselves, but the billions of beings who would have been consumed in the coming millennia. The Devourer machines had indeed been saved. Once they learned to communicate, they had eagerly shared the vast knowledge they had accumulated over millions of years. Their data contained the histories of dozens of extinct civilizations, scientific discoveries that had been lost for ages, and technologies that could benefit every species in the galaxy. Dr. Kong Minho, now director of the Human Devourer Research Initiative, had spent the past months working with the ancient machines to understand their technology. The results were extraordinary. "The Devourers have agreed to help rebuild the systems they consumed," he reported to the Assembly. "Using their matter conversion technology in reverse, they can restore planets, create new worlds, even reconstruct entire solar systems." Commander Zulutar's crystalline body flashed with excitement. "They have already begun work on 17 star systems. Within a century, those regions will be habitable again." But perhaps the most important development was the new role humanity had carved out for itself in galactic civilization. President Na Su-yan, attending via holographic link from Earth, addressed the Assembly directly. "We propose the creation of the Human Defense Corps," she announced, "a specialized force dedicated to protecting galactic civilization through nonviolent means." "Explain this concept," requested High Counselor Vextara. Admiral Dong-hae stepped forward. "For too long, the galaxy has assumed that advanced weapons must be used for destruction. Humanity offers a different approach, using our kinetic technology for construction, protection, and communication. Our railgun systems can move asteroids to create new habitable worlds," added Dr. Lee Sahi. They can deflect comets that threaten inhabited planets. They can even be used to accelerate spacecraft to near-light speeds for rapid interstellar travel. Captain Lim Suyang, now commanding the first human starship built with Confederation technology, reported on their recent missions. In the past month, we have prevented 3 asteroid impacts, assisted in the construction of 2 new colony worlds, and established communication with a previously unknown civilization on the galactic rim. The Assembly was impressed. Humanity had taken their most dangerous technology and transformed it into tools of creation and protection. Engineer Kim Minji, whose communication breakthrough had saved the Devourer machines, now headed the new Galactic Communication Institute. We are developing protocols for establishing contact with other artificial intelligences throughout the galaxy, she reported. There may be dozens of machine civilizations that have been overlooked simply because they think differently than biological species. This represents a fundamental shift in how we approach galactic diversity, observed Dr. Pixandra, whose tentacles were cycling through happy colors. Humanity has shown us that intelligence can take forms we never considered. As the formal proceedings continued, Admiral Donghae reflected on how much had changed. Earth was no longer an isolated world threatening its neighbors. Instead, it had become the center of a new approach to galactic civilization, one based on understanding rather than dominance. The vote was unanimous. All 847 member species approved humanity's admission to full membership in the Confederation of Worlds. Welcome, humans of Earth, announced High Counselor Vexthara. You are now the 848th member of our galactic community. The celebration that followed lasted for days. Species from across the galaxy came to meet the humans who had solved the Devourer crisis and transformed galactic civilization. But for Admiral Donghae, the most meaningful moment came when he received a message from the Devourer network itself. The ancient machines had learned to communicate using human mathematical concepts, and their message was simple but profound. Thank you for teaching us to create instead of consume. We had forgotten the joy of building something new. Dr. Kim Tae-yun smiled as he read the translation. They want to know if we can teach them more about art and music. Of course, said Admiral Donghae. We have a lot to learn from each other. 1 year later, Admiral Donghae stood on the observation deck of the newest addition to the human fleet, the Unity, a ship built jointly by human, Confederation, and Devourer technology. Through the windows he could see the construction of New Terra, the first planet created, entirely through cooperative effort between biological and artificial intelligence. Commander Park Ji-woo joined him at the window. Hard to believe it all. Started with a single railgun test. Sometimes the most important journeys begin with a single step, replied Donghae. Or in our case, a single shot. What's next for humanity? Admiral Donghae smiled as he watched human children playing with young aliens in the ship's recreational areas. In the background, Devourer machines worked alongside Confederation engineers to build new worlds. Next, we keep learning, keep growing, keep showing the galaxy that there's always another way to solve problems. Even the impossible ones? Especially the impossible ones. As the Unity prepared to depart for the Magellanic Clouds, where new civilizations waited to be contacted, Admiral Donghae felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos not as conquerors or destroyers, but as communicators and creators. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered. And thanks to a single railgun test that had made the galaxy go silent, humanity would be there to help discover them all. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and in the depths of space, where the Devourer machines continued their work of creation, mathematical poems written in light and metal celebrated the beauty of a galaxy united in peace.